What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, our Monday afternoon show presented by our friends at Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. If you want to party with Pure Options is sponsoring the Lansing Pride Festival on June 22nd. Come join Pure Options as they celebrate with the rest of the community love, diversity, and inclusion. And that, of course, is in Old Town in Lansing. They will also be at the Juneteenth celebration, or you can swing by any Pure Options location in Lansing, west side of the state, Mount Pleasant, Detroit, wherever it might be, anytime. Let them know Couch and the Rube sent you. And if you spend $50 or more, you'll get a free eighth of ProGrow. Just let them know we sent you either way. And our Monday afternoon show also presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, near the Lansing-East Lansing border. Tremendous place. Tremendous place. I just had one of their great sushi bowls, the Big Island Bowl. The Maui Bowl is fantastic, too. Love their flatbreads, their beer selection. Just so many good dishes that they do well. Pad Thai is when I'm drunk, I have the Pad Thai at Front 43 and Cask & Company. Jason, how you doing, brother? I do hear your voice in my head when I take a shit.
What's up, buddy? Hey, you forgot to send the listener takes.
I didn't.
What? Oh, are we changing the format of the show? Are they not producing our show anymore? We have to do something on our own?
Just today.
Shit.
So we got.
Oh my God! Carmen Electra is hot. All right, we better put that one down.
Ready to go?
Damn it! No, I'm just kidding.
Kind of a different week this week. We're doing a Monday show and a Friday show this week. I'm off in the middle of the week going to the Stratford Festival with my mom and sister in Canada to watch Shakespeare and other plays.
What is the Stratford Festival, though?
It's a place that's there. It basically it's a town in Ontario.
Okay.
That used to be a railroad town years ago, and when it was going under, to save itself, started throwing this like Shakespeare festival in this giant tent. Well, it became this thing with like 4 theaters. It's almost year round. It's like April to October. They put on giant shows. People live there full time. Actors. They bring in big actors who you would know. Who like Brian Dennehy has done shows like 5 or 6 years there.
Is he still alive?
I don't know if he's still alive now. It's a good question. I don't want to kill Brian Dennehy.
Are you expecting Brian Dennehy to be here?
I'm not. No, I'm just.
There?
I'm just saying there are lots of big actors that come in and do shows there. Yeah, it's become. My mom and dad used to do it together every year, and my sister and I have kind of taken up the baton in the last few years. We have a great time.
That's nice. So are you guys? So your mother is going.
Yes, my
sister. Your wife is going. Your sister's going. So your sister's staying with your mother, and then
I get my own room.
Nice.
At a bed and breakfast. It's a sweet. It's a good spot.
Oh, it's a bed and breakfast.
Yeah. It's a whole good.
Been to one of those.
Yeah, this is
Very
the place. This is the place where 2 years in a row now, and the first time on accident, we have asked one of the stars of the show to take a picture of us, not with the star, but we've handed them the camera to take a picture of the three of us.
That's big time.
That is big time. So that's
what
that's
does
where we
the
are.
actor say?
The first time
if
they were
I
a
were
little
the actor, I'd take a picture of myself.
They were a little confused the first time. I have to be honest.
That's a good bit.
She was the star of Chicago, and we were there. And
it's very unlike you. I figured you'd be respectful and be like, "Oh, jump in one." But
I didn't. The first
That's
time,
a great bit. What if you did that to like an athlete though?
We should do
Impressive.
that. Yeah, like Luka Doncic. Here, can I take a picture? No. You of us.
Yeah, Graham and I. Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you. No, we didn't know it was her the first time. We figured it out later.
Oh,
and she was just walking.
So
by.
you looked through her.
I looked through.
So somewhere she's mad at sports writers.
Yeah, I'm her Jim Delaney. That's
that'll be fun.
So, but we do have a fun show, I think, or hopefully a decent show. I just didn't want to do only hot takes and Twitter questions if we were just doing 2 this week.
Sure.
So we're gonna have Pat Forde on here in a little bit to talk about the future of college sports, where this is headed, where he thinks it's going, and what that means for Michigan State and places like it. So we're gonna have that conversation. He's written some really good stuff, sort of explaining where we are and how we got here, and I don't think anyone knows where it's going, but he's pretty plugged in.
If someone
on
does, it's got to be Pat Forde, right?
We
trust him.
I certainly think he's got a sense of things as well as anybody. So we'll do that here in a little bit, and then we'll come back Friday with a regular Groovy Donut Twitter question show. This Friday, however, is also National Donut Day. So keep that in mind. Go to groovydonuts.com. Get your pre-orders in before this Friday, which is one of their busiest days of the year. It's like up there with Fat Tuesday. Not quite Fat Tuesday, but it's National Donut Day. It's a holiday.
Fat Wednesday? What day is it on?
Friday.
Oh, Fat Friday.
Fat Friday.
That's perfect.
Yeah. You get fat
Let's
on Friday?
Fat, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Few things happened since we last convened.
Tigers suck still.
But they're short one less first-round pick.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
Do we have to preface this with, Tork's a good guy. We're rooting for him.
Well, he's not a Tiger anymore, so I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a mud hen. He's in the system. It's not like they FDA'd him or whatever they do.
What they ought to do is just send him to all the different minor league camps. So he can go to West Michigan, people can cheer him there. He can get cheered everywhere. Go to Erie for a while. Go down to Lakeland.
Why don't Tork and Javi do a whole summer tour
of the minor leagues?
Of Toledo. Fuck, just Toledo. Like, how do you send Tork down but look at Javi with a straight face? Why? Because he turns a double play once every 3 games or hits 7. He goes 7 for 14 and then goes 3 for 33. It's like...
That's a lot more than Tork, though. Tork was struggling. Yeah, Tork was hitting like you or me.
Dude, Javi Baez is putting up historically bad numbers. Numbers that they can't even put on a screen because it's embarrassing.
I don't think...
what? Why? Because Chris has to pay him?
I don't think they can actually send him down where he is at the point in his career.
Send him somewhere. Yeah, you can. You could do something to show, get out of here.
So
send him somewhere.
The Torkelson thing, though, and they're bringing up Justin Henry Malloy, which would be fun to see a new guy.
Time.
And
guys that are hitting down there. What are we waiting for? I know that there's all these, these whatever... contract thingies. You don't want to bring up a guy. It's just and you listen to AJ Hinch and him dance around it. It's so frustrating. They play such shit baseball at times. I just want to have fun.
And I have not given up entirely on Torkelson. I see Torkelson like I see Matty Sissoko last summer. And I think I've brought this up before. Everybody talks about the difference in level between Triple-A and the major leagues, and I don't doubt that. But there comes a certain point where a guy is struggling so much, and it has to be somewhat in his head. We saw what he could do for the last 2 months of last year. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's incapable of hitting major league pitching. It's just in his head that he cannot do it right now. He can't catch up to things. And going down, getting confidence is what matters. I don't care what level it is. If Spencer Torkelson goes and bats .320 someplace and starts raking the ball,
of course,
then you take another shot at him later in the season and see if that confidence translates. He needs confidence. He needs that blown into him. And
maybe that'll get him out of his slump buster thing.
I thought Sissoko last summer needed to be at the freaking YMCA at noon ball, catching passes and dominating and feeling good about himself and feeling like he had
for a fact that Marty wasn't doing that? Maybe he did do that.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe
he
was doing that, and that's the result.
Yeah,
it's okay. Good guys can suck and they can go away. It's fine.
Well, and the thing is, Sissoko, it may have not helped. Eventually, Sissoko just might be who he is, and that might be the case with Torkelson. He may be one of those busts, or he may wind
number one picks. But see, rarely do number one picks have a season where they hit 31, and then the next season they come back and they're just awful.
They're nothing.
Right. So. I can understand not wanting to give up on a guy, but why did it take so long to send him to Toledo? Why?
Yeah,
there's guys raking down there. Let's bring them up and see what we got. Is this season over? I look at the AL Central this morning and I go, they're not going to win. They're not going to compete for a playoff spot.
Yeah,
why are we so involved in this team right now?
Well, yes, they are competing for a playoff spot. Hold on.
10 games out of first.
Yeah, but they're not. Who cares about the AL Central? The problem is the AL Central has been bad for so long.
But it's not bad this year.
That we think about the AL Central as the only path to the playoff. The wild card, which now has 6 teams in each league, get in. The Tigers in the wild card standings are, what are they right now? They are 4 back in the wild card standings.
Okay.
So they're not. I mean, the Twins would be in the wild card right now at 33 and 26, third in the Central. The Central's got a good record. So the point being, though, you're not worried about winning the Central. You're probably not going to catch. The Royals or Guardians, one of them is probably going to fall off. The Royals are 4-6 in their last 10. We'll see if the Guardians at some point slow up. Point being, you don't have to catch them all. You got to catch the Twins.
Yeah, but you watch this team, and you really think that they could do something, even if they backed their ass into a playoff situation.
I think if you took Torkelson out of the lineup, and every team could only bat 8 guys, that the Tigers would have the same record as the Twins right now. They'd be 33 and 26
Well,
too.
7 guys because Javi counts still.
I know, but you put even with Javi, you don't have 2 automatic outs, and Javi does seem to bat well with runners in scoring position. But nonetheless,
Does he now?
Just take Torkelson, who was like for his last $1 million except for 1 game, and I think if you just took him out of the lineup, and that's what you have to hope with Justin Henry Malloy and just having him gone, is that the Tigers will be an above 500 team now.
You know what?
You don't take much to be above 500 to be in the playoff.
And it's not just Torque. Like these guys that get up here, I know it's hard to hit a professional major league slider or whatever, curveball, whatever. But like Colt Keith, like these guys that get up here, why can't we be more like the Orioles where they have the guys that come up and it's not like we have to deal with 3 for 34 slumps for some of these guys, right? It's just, it seems like we have all the bad luck or something.
What's disappointing, and I feel like this is the same with the Pistons, and fans feel this in Detroit, like the Tigers get their moment where they're getting the number 1 overall pick a couple of times in a row, right? And they wind up with Casey Mize, who, although everybody has Tommy John surgery, but who doesn't look like an ace at this point.
But it seems like he's missed like 3 years.
And Torkelson, who is, everybody would have taken that year. It wasn't like this was some reach pick. Just the bad luck of that guy doesn't seem to have it. Yep. And then, so that's frustrating. It's like that was your opportunity to be really bad. The Tigers, they may not be good now, but they're never going to draft that high. They're not going to be worse than this, so to speak. And then you look at the Pistons. They get horrible. And, yeah, Cade Cunningham was an obvious pick, and they got the number 1 pick. But then they keep getting the 5th overall pick. And then they get the 5th overall pick in the year that they have the worst record, and Wembanyama goes, 1. And like, you feel like your moment, you've got to be able to strike gold on some of these guys when you're really bad, either with good scouting or with good luck. And it feels like neither of those teams have had it. And then how do you build out of that when you don't?
And speaking of the number 1 picks, though, I mean, Torque was pretty much a consensus number 1. Cade, it's not like you whiffed on the pick. You made a pick that pretty much every other baseball team, if they had the number 1, were going to take Torque, right? So it's not like you whiffed on the pick. And number 1 picks, and especially in baseball, they whiff all the time. So it's not – the problem is that you can't sit there and let him try to figure shit out for himself while you're trying yourself. You're trying to put on a an exciting baseball team for the fans. It's just – I just don't know if anybody cares in the front office or
they care.
Ownership.
They care. I don't know if
Chris Ilitch, I don't know.
Well, I don't know how much he wants to spend, but I think he cares. I think there's probably a difference. I think Scott Harris cares. I think the players care. I think Torkelson cares.
Sure, but he's on the same page as the owner, though. I'm not blaming Scott Harris. When I say anything about front office management, it's Chris Ilitch. But
okay,
I don't blame Scott Harris because you're sitting there, you're hired by Chris Ilitch. I get it. You're going to be buddy with him, but deep down, you have to understand. It's like if he's not going to spend, you're effed anyway.
We'll see what Justin Henry Malloy does. He is one of Scott Harris's first guys. Like, in other words, that was a guy he went and traded for right after he got the job. And so, I mean, not that means a whole hell of a lot, but it's certainly somebody he identified. So I'd like to see what he winds up being.
And we talked about it. If they didn't have the pitching staff that they do, the Reese Olson situation, which is bizarre. I don't know what other team has that happen where a guy's got an ERA like that. He's got all-star stuff, and he didn't have a win for like the first 4 games.
Yeah.
So. Anyway,
one other thing to get into before we get to Pat Forde here in a moment. The Caitlin Clark story took over my timeline over the weekend because she took some physical abuse and some verbal abuse in the against the Chicago Sky. And here's the thing: rookies in every sport take this. She is certainly somebody who I think there's some jealousy and envy for, and there's some people who don't like. She is been put on this pedestal, and she's walked into a grown women's league, and she's got to deal with it. I have no problem with being physical with Caitlin Clark. You got to be careful. Like, if somebody gets a knee injury because you're injured or you're physical, that's one thing. But I have no problem with being pushing around rookies or any of that. My big issue with what happened to her is, where are her teammates? Where is the enforcer on the Indiana Fever roster? You're not a good team. You ought to have a couple Bill Lambiers. You ought to have somebody who comes in, and if you shove Caitlin Clark, my job is to protect her. My job is to shove you back. And that, I mean, that's just classic being a teammate. I don't really get why that's not there for her.
So do her teammates not like her either?
I just don't think. I think
they don't want to help her.
I think in women's sports there's less of that traditionally, and so there's less of that. Less, I'm not saying there's less physicality, but there's less. Like the WNBA never existed in the 1980s and early 90s when there was that going on.
Or 2000s.
It existed in 2000s.
Yeah.
It existed. It existed.
Listen, they're
That's
making
part
a
of the
mistake
argument right now.
by not embracing this. What is our favorite time watching basketball, especially professional? 80s, late 80s, early 90s, the bad boys.
Well, for us.
I understand, and I'm not saying you have to go crazy like they did in the 80s and 90s where the guys were getting slammed down and everything, but just a little bit of little physicality. I mean, these players, what do you expect them to be pro Caitlin Clark? I love the fact that they can't stand her, and it's going to get me to watch. So why wouldn't we embrace this? I get it. You don't want to sit there, they got fined $5,000 or whatever it was because they didn't talk afterwards. But if you have to build villains, and you have to have heroes and villains, and that's how you grow the sport. If you're sitting there and you're nice to everybody and you're happy for fucking everybody, like the NBA has turned into, no one wants to watch that shit. So the WNBA needs to accept how great this is that you have a player that people can't stand.
Well,
it's a lot of look at Jordan back in the day. He had to work out because the Pistons were kicking his ass up and down the court. They were hammering him.
Yeah, a lot of people love her, but some of the players don't. And
I get it.
I'm totally.
Why not?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that point. I think people also need to embrace, like the idea that the Chicago Sky got fined for not, doing the post game press conference as they should, making themselves completely available. That's fine. NBA teams have been doing that for years, and they get fined. Like, this is part of sports. When people misbehave, they get fined. Part of the NBA's growth process is moving out of the stage where where we actually care about the basketball, where we criticize elements of what's going on, where we criticize players for not stepping up in a given game. Part of the growth process is not, oh, look at Caitlin Clark, yay, let's watch women's hoops. That's not. Right. That's only a short span. If this thing is going to take off, and if this is going to manifest itself in ways that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson did for the NBA over the next decade and things like that, if we're going to be, the ideal situation is a decade from now, two blokes like us are sitting in this studio breaking down, pissed off about something that happened in a WNBA game and breaking down the actual basketball because it's that popular. And the way to get there is so I don't think any of this is bad as long as but I do wonder where the hell her teammates are.
Take a player like Kelsey Plum, who was kind of like Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. She averaged 30 points a game in college. Are you excited? And everybody's telling you that you're taking chartered plane rides because of this player when you filled up the bucket just like she did. I can understand these WNBA players that can't stand Caitlin Clark. That's going to be great for the league in the long run. Yeah, she's getting beat up right now, but that's fantastic because I guess what? If you have a sport where there's conflict in it, unfortunately, people gravitate towards it. People love conflict. If you know that there's going to be something brewing and during the game, you're going to get more and more viewers than even with Caitlin Clark bringing everybody in. So
people are more engaged.
Please, WNBA, don't ruin this momentum. That's all I'm asking. Don't ruin it.
I'm with you, and I don't think they will. I think this is going to continue. All right, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, Pat Forde from Sports Illustrated and the College Football Inquirer podcast, we're going to talk about the future of college sports, places like Michigan State included, obviously. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options, precision-crafted cannabis, and our Monday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast app.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, precision crafted cannabis, and our Monday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar near the Lansing-East Lansing border just north of Frandor. Pleased now to be joined by Pat Forde from Sports Illustrated and the College Football Inquirer podcast with Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger. One of my regular listens. Pat has been a long-time read for me as well. Want to talk the future of college sports. Pat, welcome.
Hey, Graham. Good to be on with you.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time. I appreciate it. You wrote what I think was one of the better explainer pieces I've read on how we got to this pay for play in college sports. A really good look at the last 70 years. And when you look at the 70 years we just went through and the pace in which it happened versus the pace now, what can we learn from that in terms of where we're headed?
Yeah, the pace has accelerated drastically, and that's probably not going to change. My guess is that there's a whole bunch more turnover, transition, turbulence, tumult, whatever, still to come as we kind of feel our way into this drastic new era. So, once the kind of the walls of amateurism came down, then you're almost dealing with like a vacuum in terms of regulation or like how we should proceed. And people are filling that with kind of one on-the-fly idea after another in response to lawsuits. And, I just think it's going to continue to evolve as everyone tries to figure out how they're going to continue to make massive amounts of money in a world where you also have to pay the athletes significant amounts of money.
Yeah, it's. I don't think anybody has a sure footing of where this is headed exactly. One of my I am curious what happens to the non-revenue sports, and you wrote in the piece I just referenced that the name of the plaintiff in the House versus the NCAA is Arizona State Sun Devil swimmer Grant House, and his sport is one of the most jeopardized by the diverting funds to pay his multi-billion-dollar settlement. And be careful what you sue for. I had a conversation with Alan Haller at Michigan State just a couple weeks ago, and he was very adamant that cutting sports would not be something on the table while he was the AD. But I mean that. How you pay for all this and what it looks like. How concerned are you about the non-revenue landscape in college sports?
Oh, I'm definitely concerned about it, and I think everyone else is too. And heck, we saw Michigan State cut swimming not long ago, and other people, have made cuts as well. It was interesting. I was just at SEC Media Days, and everybody said, we don't want to cut sports. We don't want to cut sports. We don't want to cut sports. They didn't say we're not going to cut sports. Nobody wants to be seen as being in favor of that because the backlash tends to be vicious. But at the same time, nobody's ruling it out. And I did have one AD down there tell me, I want to see who goes first. And basically provides the meat shield for the rest of the industry to say, okay, if this power conference school decided to cut 4 sports and the AD didn't get fired for doing it, hey, we'll sign up and we'll do it next. We'll see if it actually plays out that way. But I think the one thing, that everybody says, hey, we've got to contain costs. We've got to slow down, our spending. But nobody says we're going to pay our football coach less than $10 million, or our defensive coordinator less than $2 million, or our strength coach less than $800,000. They're going to look to save that money elsewhere. Football will be the last thing that gets touched, even if it is the most excess in terms of spending. So if you're in the other sports, I would be very nervous.
Yeah, no, like you mentioned Michigan State, and they used COVID as a shield for why they cut, swim and dive. And, now I don't think Alan Haller would have made the same decision, but I don't know. I mean, at the time it was convenient. I do wonder how many schools, even before the finances are understood and before they know what spending, $22 million a year on their athletes and revenue sharing is going to look like, use this as a reason, is just sort of an excuse to do it and get out in front of it. Do you sense we'll probably see that in the next year before these payments even take hold, 15, 16 months from now?
Yeah. I think you laid it out quite well, that it was an excuse offered for some ADs to do what they actually really wanted to do, which was to cut some sports because they were expensive, and swimming stands out because of the facility costs, but there's others too that Connecticut whacked a bunch of sports. Iowa eliminated some sports. Stanford actually, which I think has the most sports, got rid of like 11 or 12, but then brought them back because of the backlash. But yeah, this is another example where if you give ADs an excuse to do something they've probably wanted to do all along, as they've looked at their balance sheets, that some will probably take it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. One of the things that in listening to your pod with Dan and Ross, that Dan is much more on the side of non-revs can disappear or non-scholarship, kind of so be it. I don't want to say go that far, but he's less worried about it. And one of the things you point out regularly is, not to put words in your mouth here, but just not everything is meant to be a cash cow when you're talking about the broad-based college experience and sort of, academic programs. Not all bring in the same amount of money. I'm wondering, do you think there's any chance that sort of that sensibility prevails in this?
It'll be a fascinating question, test case. And yeah, Dan, who I love, but he views everything just as a business decision. And universities aren't really set up that way. That's not how they were intended. It has not been how they operate. I know times are changing, but, to view everything as football makes money, we only care about football, is A, counter to higher education tradition, but B, also, undercuts a significant part of your campus population that is, doing good things in terms of, like that, the grade point averages generally for Olympic sports tend to be higher, certainly, than the general student population. These are people that do bring good publicity to your universities. And if you're just going to throw away those people and say, well, the football team needs a 23rd analyst, I don't think that would go over very well. But there's also, the opposite viewpoint that, hey, we're trying to make bucks here. We're trying to make ends meet after losing a $2.8 billion lawsuit, and there may be other lawsuits to come. We need to protect what makes us money, and we don't care that much about what doesn't. Now, what would have to give in that situation is the minimum number of sports that you're supposed to sponsor to be a Division I athletic program. There are people that want to change that number and lower it so that they could sponsor fewer sports. So, we'll see where push comes to shove here, but never, ever underestimate the power of football in a shoving contest.
Michigan State, the up around here is relatively one of the haves in college athletics. They're, obviously in the Big Ten, probably a top 30 revenue school most of the time, and that's, gives them at least a fighting chance here. Even so, I hear from fans all the time, I'm less interested. And with everything that's going on with the player movement, with the just what made them love college sports seems to be changing. And I don't know if this is actually true or if it's just not as fun right now. Do you think this is true, that there are enough fans that there are fans, I would say, that are less interested? And do you think there's a chance it'll manifest itself any way that's tangible in the coming years, where people realize there are fewer eyeballs on something, or there are fewer butts in seats, and it matters for future TV deals, for overall revenue, and for the direction that things go?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating topic, and I know you've made that point several times, and I agree with the general premise for sure that in a lot of ways, I think college sports is inviting fans to check out. That obviously, I think one of the great allures of it are fans who, like with any sport, they invest in their local team, but more than that, you're like, we're going to watch this kid come as an 18-year-old, and we're going to see how he does and how he develops and how he matures and grows up and improves over 3 or 4 years. And that's part of the fun of it. And if you are literally swapping out 33 to 50% of your roster every single year, that becomes a lot harder to identify with the players. And if their reasons for leaving are solely based on, well, Penn State offered me more money, see ya. That can be a hard thing for fans to deal with. It's never going to be the same as the old days where, it was they're playing for the scholarship and the love of the jersey and that sort of thing. So those days are gone, but still, I think there needs to be some element that ties athletes to schools longer. That's where, a multi-year contract for an NIL deal or whatever. And the NCAA really screwed up when they let go of the rope basically on transfers, and just basically gave up. And now the courts forced them to finish giving up. But, to have, complete freedom of transfer movement has not been a good development, in my opinion, and is going to have real negative educational consequences. And I do think there will be negative fan consequences as well. Now, I will say, like this next year, I think ratings are going to be huge. I think attendance is going to be huge. I think the 12-team playoff is going to inject a great deal of enthusiasm and excitement into the season for a whole bunch more fan bases. And some of the new matchups will do the same too. Some will alienate, like on the West Coast, but I do think we're going to see a temporary bump. But if this is the way college sports is run for the long haul, I think eventually it'll be detrimental to business and to allegiances.
There is a sense that I think's mistaken, that the House case, which settles some things for people, and obviously there's back payments to student athletes going back to 2016, and then sort of sets a parameters going forward, but that replaces NIL, and that replaces the ability for anybody else. Like, I don't see anywhere that the athletes have bargained for this. I don't see I don't know that this prevents lawsuits. I don't know that this stops the NIL world from being what it is now. Do you think? I mean, what does this actually do, other than revenue sharing and schools having the independent ability to decide who they're going to pay and how much? And Title IX may have some say in that, but it sounds like it's going to be school to school. How much does this change what's happening with NIL, anything that's happening in the portal, or lessen the number of lawsuits coming down the pike?
Yeah, I guess I would say that this is almost like exploratory surgery. Like, you hope it works,
yeah,
but you may lose the patient. It's also possible, or that you don't cure whatever you're trying to cure here. There's no doubt that there's still the potential for additional lawsuits, as you said. Like, there could be plenty of athletes out there saying, we didn't agree to this. This is an agreement from plaintiffs or from attorneys and the NCAA and a court and a judge, and we didn't have a say in this. There could be, a chance that Congress continues to say, we're not really feeling this. We're not going to come sailing in with an antitrust exemption that will protect the NCAA from further exposure to litigation. So, I think that it's risky, but it's kind of like the only option they really had. That, as it was said to me, Charlie Baker just was told over and over and over for his first 6 months on the job, we got to end the lawsuits. And, okay, this is an attempt to end the lawsuits, but will it really do that? I don't know. Again, this is your 3rd and 18 pass play, or 4th and 18, and it may well, fall incomplete or get picked off, or you may get sacked.
Obviously, nobody has any concrete vision of where this is headed and what it'll look like. Because if you had asked me in 2019 what college sports would look like in 2024, I could not have painted the next 5 years for you. But if you had to sort of take a stab and a guess at what we're talking about, what it looks like, how we feel about things 5 years from now, what would you say?
Yeah, just guessing because, who knows? I think that we're probably looking at the realignment / rating of the ACC at some point in there. If not 5 years, then certainly within 10. The end of the playoff contract, which I think goes to 2031 maybe or something like that, also signals another kind of milestone where in the year or two leading up to that, you may see further movement. So I suspect there's going to be more conference realignment. And guess who's going to win that? Big Ten and SEC. Shocking. Everybody else might be further marginalized, kicked to the curb. Those two may finally decide we're going to have our own alliance, for lack of a better term, and our own playoffs and our own championship, and we don't care about anybody else. And if that happens, then I think we probably lose the NCAA basketball tournament as well, which would be a catastrophic development, in my opinion, at least the basketball tournament as we know it and love it. And the NCAA is either partially involved or gone. So sounds kind of catastrophic, but I don't have high hopes that the people in charge are going to find a better way out.
Yeah, do they not see I look at Greg Sankey and I look at Tony Batiti and the people in charge of those leagues and the membership, do they not see the greater good in having prosperity among the other schools, the other members? I find it hard to believe as smart people they don't see something in having health throughout the college athletics world.
Yeah, I've known Greg Sankey for a long time, and I think he's one of the smartest people in the industry, if not the smartest. And I think he's one of those guys that was always enculturated in on-campus college sports. He didn't come in as a TV exec, and try to reinvent the wheel that way. But whether it is power, whether it's impatience with everyone else, whether it is feeling like he has an ally in the Big Ten he can work with, I don't think that they're overly concerned about the greater good. I don't think anybody is. And if Sankey and Batiti aren't, then everybody else is in trouble. And Batiti, I think, as a teetotal outsider, doesn't give a rip. I can't say he has told me that, but every action that has transpired since he got to the Big Ten indicates that he's in for what's good for the Big Ten, and that's all. So you put those two together, and I do think that there is with not necessarily a lack of understanding, but a lack of concern for what would happen to everybody else.
It's a little depressing. A little.
It is.
Pat,
here we are.
Pat, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for all the time. Pat Forde from Sports Illustrated. If you haven't read him, you obviously should. Famous 40-yard dash, one of the best columns around, and the College Football Inquirer podcast with Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger, a must listen. Pat, appreciate you, man.
Hey, my pleasure, Graham. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Pat Forde, again, from Sports Illustrated and the College Football Inquirer. Jason, takeaways.
Wow. My question is, when we talk about people losing interest, like what demographic? Like guys like me, I'm never going to lose interest because I'll watch whatever because of gambling and other things, and I'm not an alumnus or anything like that, alumni. So I'm not a diehard Michigan State fan, right? Are we talking about younger people losing interest? Are we talking about people our age losing interest that are alumni?
I think there are a couple, right? I think that's a good question. I think there are a couple layers to this. One, I think there are people who've loved it for what it was and went to a school and fell in love with the place and their connection to athletes was created by this common bond that they also chose your school. You got to know them. There's some level of loyalty to the school and feeling about it. You know, when Jaden Mangum says he's transferring to Michigan and Tony Lippett and R.J. Shelton and all these guys jump on, and the former players who feel a certain way and the connection that they had like you had to the place, right? And their common bond, right. This is our place. And so the idea that is being lost, I think, with younger people, if that never develops, if you come into school and you don't feel like the football players or the men's basketball players are really share any commonality of community with you there, they're just here as a hired gun for a year or two or as long as they want, that may change your attachment to a place. I think with older people, you may get fed up because it's not what you've known for 40 years. And the question really becomes over time, and Pat brought it up, the idea of, having a bump in the near term. And I think that's the danger that you're going to see lots of hot takes on Twitter, probably on this show, where people go, look at the ratings. These morons who think there's going to be less interest. Step back from it. Yeah, in the short term, I don't know anybody yet who's not going to watch college football this fall.
Right.
My question is, as we get down the pike, do people, when it's time to renew season tickets, go, yeah, I don't want to contribute to this, or I'm less interested. I'm not going to watch the game. And certainly, you're seeing probably already people care less about the recruiting element and all of that, and so they're not as invested year round. And these are things I don't know for sure. But the other thing is beyond Michigan State, and I've said this before, that say it's just the Big Ten and SEC, and these are two 20-team leagues, and there are 40 schools where everybody's really invested, and there are a few others, so 50 schools are in the fight sort of together. There are not enough eyeballs from 50 fan bases. What makes it all work is that, New Mexico's fans, they also care. Now, they're usually not part of they're not usually part of the playoff picture, but they can live the dream. And because they live the dream, they also then watch the playoff. That's where they dream to get. But
if you're a fan of New Mexico, you're not making any playoff.
But what I mean is, though, if it's completely taken away, if the option of ever having a Boise State year or a Western Michigan year where they're in the, because that would have got them in 2016 with Fleck, that would have got them in the playoff with 12 teams. If the dream of getting to a certain place and being part of the party and having that great year is completely off the table, and in college basketball, if the ability to build and be part of the NCAA tournament and have that Butler run, have that Loyola run, if that is gone, then or even have, if you're a low major, the win over Virginia, like if all that stuff gets taken away, those fan bases become less invested. Overall eyeballs will be down, and I think we will see that. So I think there are a couple different levels and layers and age groups and all sorts of things.
And I think, like Pat said, when there's more rules, I think people will better understand because we adapt. For things that we love, yes, we all bitch in May and June about how we're not going to watch anymore. But guess what? When August and September rolls around, guess who's going to be turning on football? People that still said they weren't going to watch it in May and June. So I would have to see ratings for a college football championship or the playoff really dip before I start going the end of college sports. Because I know that, Pat said the NCAA basketball tournament could be gone, right? Okay, but there would be some tournament. It would just be called with a different title.
If they screw up the NCAA tournament, and I know that
even if they did, though, right, something else would come up. Another tournament? Do they have the rights on brackets and everything where someone else couldn't jump in and take over?
I think it's hard to picture right now as somebody who covers Michigan State or for people who are fans of Michigan State listening, what this will feel like entirely. They've seen what happened in football, obviously, right? They've seen they've seen a number of guys coming in and out. They are coaching. The situation with Mel Tucker last year was dreadful, but that feels more situational than systematic right now. And in basketball, Michigan State is not a place that is felt the full brunt of the transfer portal and everything yet, right? So I'm curious to see, say 5 years from now, Michigan State basketball loses 6 guys to the transfer portal, brings in 6. They're a little less. You don't know who the guys are. The next year they lose 5 more. They bring in 5. Like that, what does Breslin feel like and look like? What is the overall interest, and can you prevent that from happening? There are places where it already is, but I think at MSU, it's one of those fortunate places where you haven't gone down that road yet.
And that's the big question, is when Tom retires and he's gone, guys like me who've been a Tom Izzo fan forever, love the legend Tom Izzo, right? But then when he's gone and all of a sudden these guys start coming in and out and there's no really continuities to some of the, even though we goof on Tom for not bringing in a 5 that we wanted, but still, right? Then these guys are just interchanging. There's a new coach. Then I could see people kind of dipping out of maybe MSU basketball that are in our age group in their 50s. It's possible.
Well, it's just hard to picture. And I think it's one of the things Pat got into. Like, it's hard. I mean, what he painted down the road, when you talk more than 5 years, but between 5 and 10, when you talk about the media rights deals ending, the ACC falling apart, the playoff, in 2031, the playoff that we may come to love and think is great with 12 or 14 teams over the next few years, all of a sudden that contract being up. Like, if that all gets screwed up, who knows? I'm very curious to see where this all goes. It is depressing, and this is why I'm telling you right now, you need pure options in your life. If you think for more than 20 or 30 minutes on any given day about the path college sports are on, the future, and it is a headache that Pure Options can help you with. Go to pureoptions.com for location information, or just swing on by any Pure Options. Let them know college sports is giving me a freaking headache, man. I need your help, and the folks at Pure Options will be there to help you. Let them know Couch and the Rube sent you. Of course, it is. The thing is, there are some good things, like the revenue sharing is probably needed, is probably overdue. Like, there are elements of this. Some of this is a reaction to what was an oppressive system for a while. Now, a college scholarship is not nothing. It was something, and there didn't need. I was glad Pat brought up this point. Like, I have very much been against the idea that they had to do the one-time transfer and now anytime transfer without sitting out. To me, it is not punitive to make somebody sit out a year. It may sound like it the way I phrase that, but you're getting an extra year of school, a lot of stuff paid for. You're getting all sorts of stuff. You could fix that by saying, your eligibility clock is not hurt. Even if you transfer a second time, as long as you sit out, it's not counting against your eligibility clock. There are lots of ways to change the rules there, or, in hindsight, if they had done that.
And it's not because you want to punish someone. It's just you have to have some sort of guideline, so there's some sort of loyalty to teams. Because right now they're really,
it's unsustainable. I think.
Right?
Yeah, and it's not.
You have to have some sort of, not punishment, but some sort of retribution or something you have to pay in order to get out of there.
Well, you need some sort of deterrent, because what you have now is
going to have to be money wise.
I heard the Coastal Carolina baseball coach saying this, and their transfer portal window is even later because of baseball season. Like, their guys go to the Cape Cod League in the summer, and then somebody sees them and they transfer after the coach has already reserved them a scholarship. What sort of sport succeeds where there is unlimited free agency every year for every player? It doesn't work. It's not right. It's not fair. Now, if it's just if it's just us sorting things out because of, going back to the Fab Five, who changed college sports and were, I think, a revolutionary group for a while, and yet couldn't get any money off their jersey sales or things like that. Are we paying for that? Then that's one thing. But long term, you have to have some sort of rules in place, but that's going to have to be agreed upon. This is where, just because you have this House case that's going to have about 21, 22 million going to athletes annually, and that may go up as revenues go up for a lot of the Power 5 places, including Michigan State. That doesn't mean there is an outside NIL. That doesn't mean the transfer portal won't be just as active. If you're a place like Michigan State that's going to have the money to do a lot of this relative to a lot of other schools, you're going to do okay. I think MSU, relative to a lot of other schools, they're still going to have to make decisions because it's $22 million they previously hadn't thought about. And there's more money coming in with the media rights deal and stuff like that, but it's not the budget. There isn't a budget for this right now, and so they're going to have to figure this all out. Let's take one more break. We're going to get back. Jason has we have some more hot takes a baked take, I'm told,
Yeah.
from Jason. And we want to get into all that. Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, Precision Crafted Cannabis, and our Monday show, brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes Couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options, Precision Crafted Cannabis, and our Monday show, brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, an outstanding place to watch the games. You don't have Bally's, but you want to watch the Tigers. You want to see a Tarek Skubal performance. You think Justin Henry Malloy is up on the big league roster, and Spencer Torkelson's down. I kind of like to see the Tigers now. You'd like to watch some French Open, whatever it might be. The NBA Finals starting later this week. Swing on by one of the best the best TV setup around. It really is fantastic. It's
better than your TV setup.
It is better than my crappy TV setup. It's why I fell in love with the place and two adjoining restaurants, one fantastic menu, great beer selection, great happy hour specials, and an underrated patio as well. Jason.
Yeah, man.
We got some more takes to get to.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit. Ben Johnson spoke, I believe, last Friday, and people were kind of, when I say people, Albert Breer on Twitter was kind of amazed that he could speak like a normal person, and I have a clip here to prove it.
I do hear your voice in my head when I take a shit.
Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. Those are.
If I get the opportunity to go down that road, it's about how do I get to that second contract? How do I set myself up that the stars need to align? I'm not going to do it just to do it. I love what I'm doing right now. Love it. I love where I'm at. My family loves where we're at. Love the people that we're doing it with. And so I'm not willing to go down the other path yet unless I feel really good about how it's going to unfold.
And that was a terrible setup. I'm sorry. But I could listen to that every single day because you know how long it's been since we've heard that people want to be with the Detroit Lions and all that. But it blows my mind when we have people that are open and honest and they become famous. And I love it because I'm kind of open and honest too. But it's like, why are we so surprised that he's talking like how a lot of other guys should? I get into the football guys; they sit there and they're like Belichick, and they don't want to say anything or reveal anything. But he's just out there saying, "Listen, man, I know I had great opportunities, but I do love it here, and I just don't want to take some random job and be run out of here." It's just I know it's refreshing for people to hear, but it just seems like it's a normal kind of topic. And
I think if you know you're real. If you know you're good at what you do, and you know this isn't some flash in the pan where this might be your only opportunity.
Right, and he is getting paid pretty well with Detroit.
Incredibly well.
Right.
But the other idea is, too, and I think he has in Detroit a good setup, right? He has a quarterback who's just signed long-term who he knows and he's worked with. He has a head coach who he likes working with. He has a team that appears to be sort of in the early stages of its window, right? So you got all the things in place. I think if you didn't know who your quarterback was going to be, you didn't know how good you're going to be, you'd worry about that stuff. And so if I were him, and you're as young as he is, and you may only get one shot at this head coaching thing if it doesn't go well, like I would wait to go to a place that had a quarterback, or at least a quarterback prospect that excited you, and an owner.
Detroit's not looking to get rid of you.
Right, an owner that excited you, or at least you thought you could work with. Like you want to wait. And if Detroit wins a Super Bowl, you know who's going to have a lot of options? Ben Johnson. So
right. So it is a little easier when you have
not everybody
Ben
can
Johnson's
do that.
kind of right. And also on that front of being normal, Charlie Hull for the LPGA. There was the Women's U.S. Open over the weekend, and she was crushing a couple heaters during the practice round when she was signing autographs, and people freaked the fuck out. Like, wait, what? You're smoking on a golf? Like, this is like John Daly all over again. It just fascinates me in 2024 when we see people doing kind of normal stuff, when we're used to stuffy and certain areas where we can't talk like normal people. That it fascinates.
Well, and Ben Johnson, I mean, he also brought up the point that he likes being a play caller for the Lions, and he
wants to do that with an NFL franchise.
Correct, and he knows enough to know he doesn't know everything. He knows that can be very difficult when you got a lot of other things on your plate. And so you have to build a staff and a situation around yourself that allows some of those things to be handled so you can keep calling the plays. And you have to figure out how you want to do that. And you got to find the right place for that. And so I respect what he did. I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's great for the Lions. And
but does it surprise you when you heard it?
Well,
right? Like when you heard him talk open and honestly.
No, because I knew he had stayed. I mean, I guess the reasons were refreshing and sort of interesting because you don't hear it very often. But you knew he had stayed for a reason. Because his best shot was probably Washington, we thought.
Sure.
And
they're going to have had a 5-year window there.
And they're going to have a young quarterback, right? And a new ownership there. So I don't know. But yeah, and it's good for the Lions in this sense too. He's not a guy who's automatically gone after next year. You know what I mean? Like if he's looks at it and the situation out there with what's open and what's not and where the Lions are, there's no reason he has to leave after next year. And it kind of lets you know that he's not in a hurry. And if there's a great spot, that's fine. Now, if I'm the Lions, though, and you have a guy who you think is really critical to your success and your staff, and we have seen what has happened to other places when they have lost coordinators, like Philadelphia last year, and how it can become tricky, what I would want to do is I would want to bring somebody on staff to groom under him. I would want to bring his successor. And it may not.
Maybe Campbell's already doing that.
Yeah, we don't know. But that's what I would want to do, just so somebody who knew they may for a couple years not be the person, but you're working toward that. And then he'd probably take them on their staff and he'd lose them anyway. But no, I thought that was interesting. I did.
Big take / I don't like doing TV recommendations because I don't know if it's good. I enjoyed it, but we need more time for these streaming shows. We need more time between episodes because I got caught up Saturday watching a show called Sugar with Colin Farrell on Apple Plus. And the reason why I was watching that because I forgot I didn't have Apple and I had to watch the Tigers the other day. So I signed up and then I want to get my money's worth. Anyway, I feel like it's a good show, but I got wrapped up because it goes right at the end and then it goes right into the next episode. And of course, me being dumb and everything, the first 15 seconds gets me and I'm like, well, I can't miss this episode. I can't wait for it. So then I just keep reoccurring and watching it. But here's the bake take part.
Okay, because that's pretty baked too.
It is? Why?
Well, because that's what everybody does. You just
I know,
have to
but
stop
I'm
it
just saying, can't you just give me 30 seconds to?
No, they want
I
you
have
to watch the
dive
next
at my
thing.
remote
Yeah.
to try to hit pause. I'm telling you, dude, I can't do it. If it if the preview comes on, I'm in the next episode. I understand. I have problems, but I can't dive for the remote that quickly.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And now, so this show, Sugar, with Colin Farrell, there is like an alien kind of element to it. And I kind of was thinking, I was like, are they doing a soft launch? And by them, I mean like the government of like, they're going to announce that there's aliens, right? Like they're doing a soft launch with this show to try to say like, yeah, they're among us. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Like there's so many certain things, like all of these like ancient alien shows that are out now. And I just feel like they're just doing and then they have people like talking in front of Congress that they're like elite fighter pilots that are like, yeah, I saw aliens. And then it just goes away, right? All these stories that are going on. I mean, one day, are we just going to wake up and then there's going to be like an alien announcement or something? And then I'll go back and be like, man, I knew it.
That is a big
Sugar
take. I don't think Sugar if the government's going to do a soft launch on aliens, I don't know if it's going to be Sugar on Apple Plus.
Why? It's a good show. Got 7 out of 10, I think. Is that good?
Do enough people have Apple Plus?
Listen, I said soft launch.
Okay.
If I said hard launch, then it would have been on YouTube. I'm saying soft launch.
Do you recommend the show?
I do, but I hate recommending because, maybe it's not for you. So, I mean, if you see it, check it out. It's a cool Colin Farrell, man. Looks good.
I'm not.
He's like 50-something years old, man. He still looks good.
Yeah,
he's like this secret agent guy.
I might check it out. I have Apple because I pay for all MLS soccer stuff.
Right. So you feel like you have to, for $9.99 a month. I'm like, I got to get some value here.
I got to get something. Although I'm got to cut something now that I'm paying $20 a month for Bally's.
Well, that's your fault.
Yeah. No, the better thing to do, by the way, a couple things. One, that's a great pure options take. If the government is soft launching.
Remember,
aliens.
Big take on the alien soft launch, so I don't want to hear about it.
But a better way than spending $19, $20 a month on Bally's is to spend that $20 on happy hour at Front 43 in Cass & Company.
There you go.
And you can watch the same Tigers game, enjoy the great vibe and experience and menu there. And you don't feel like you're just giving more money to Bally's, which is trying to screw you over. That would be my final take on that. Thanks to Pat Forde for joining us. It was a fun discussion to have and one we needed to have here on college sports and where things are headed. Might have been a little depressing, but it needed to be done. We will be back Friday with a Groovy Donut Twitter question show. I will be in Canada until then. And, Jason will be here. Yeah, thanks, man. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.